Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weishuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, what a nice introduction, fellas. Folks, it's time for Campfire Talk. Mr. Larry Weishuhn is standing by. We just got back here recently, a few days ago, from a fun hunt up at the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up there in southeast Oklahoma. And that's one of the things I know we're going to talk about. Larry, thank you for being here, buddy, for 18.5 years, man.
Oh my gosh, look, it's hard to believe it's been that long, and I'm hoping we'll have at least that many more years ahead of us. But,
Me too.
We got to thank Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus makes the Radiant Hunter handguns that I hunt with. Mossberg makes their shotguns and rifles here in Texas. I love those things. Got Stealth Vision, who we're down Crockett, Texas, that makes unbelievable scopes. And VINEYARDMAX that, my gosh, make the best deer bait and deer feeders there are. And, of course, Dallas Safari Club, DSC. And I bring them up last because you mentioned being on the Choctaw. Well, it was my pleasure to be there to kind of help host a hunt that Van Eversole bought at our DSC Foundation gala, I think a year or so ago, and he brought his sons Carson and Cale and to hunt turkeys. And I have to tell you, those boys and spending time with Van were absolutely a great pleasure. And both those guys, Van kind of let the boys hunt, and both those guys killed really good gobblers. And of course, I was there as well too, and you and Jeff showed up, but I was there to host that hunt for DSC Foundation, but also to spend time with David and Edgar Cotton, and who were there hunting turkeys as well. So you talk about an absolutely great time to be had by everybody. And the fact that you and Jeff came in and hunted hogs made it even more special. It was just a whole lot of fun. It was, Larry. Yeah, the Van sons, I actually at dinner sat there right next to them. They were fine young fellows, and they had, I think each one of them had, no telling how many times they've already been to Africa with their dad, Van, you know. And they were talking about leopards, and one of them's eyes was rolling. He said, "I don't know about those leopards." He was a little bit, you know, or at least he sounded like he was apprehensive on leopards. But I think they're going back to Africa. So those boys have been exposed to a bunch of hunting in their short lives, and we did. Edgar Cotton and Edgar's son David live about 25 miles from me in Kaufman County, southeast of Dallas, and they have a fine place out there with about a 30-acre lake on it. And Larry and I go out and spend a lot of when Larry's up, he comes over, and I go out there pretty frequently to hunt, you know, hogs or whatever. But they came up, and they didn't have a long time to stay. The hunt was like, I don't know, 4-day hunt, but they had to get back for it was the Mother's Day weekend, and they had to get back. They didn't harvest a turkey, but you were with them a lot, saw the turkeys and all that. But sometimes you just have to kind of take the hunt to the turkeys, Larry. And I know it was a challenging hunting out of a pop-up blind and filming it and all that. It's kind of challenging, but they had a big time. I do know that. They did. We had turkey hens all around us, and had a couple of gobblers come in, but didn't come in close enough. We were hunting around a water hole in an area where those birds not roosted too far from, and we were kind of on the tail end of the calling season. As Dusty did his best,
and got turkeys to answer and all those kind of things, but they just didn't want to come in. And we were limited a little bit because of the vegetation and that kind of thing to get around. So we just kind of sat, but I'll tell you what, we had an absolute great time. And of course, visiting after the hunt and before the hunt every morning and every evening, and then sitting around the campfire eating some of the most fantastic food imaginable, including buffalo that I know that you unfortunately had to leave, that you did not get to eat. But Edgar and David and Cale and Carson and Van and I were glad that you weren't there, because we got to eat that much more buffalo.
Oh, that's a heartbreaker. So Edgar sent me a picture or David sent me a picture of Edgar chowing down with some asparagus, and I tell you, Dusty, Vickery, and his wife Nicole, I wrote a newspaper article the next week that I would go up there just for the companionship and the food, if I didn't hunt. But it is some fine hunting for whatever up there. But I have had that dish, and she takes the bison meat. I don't know. I just absolutely love bison, better than beef. I'll make a step farther, better than elk. To me, bison is as good as it gets. And she makes a smothered hamburger steak. You know, she went into a little bit of detail. She browns it and seasons it up well, and then bakes it a while. Makes a gravy. It is so good. But I had to head back home, and that was the evening meal. But I've had that before. That's about one of the most favorite meals in the world, right there, Larry. She can do it right on that bison for sure. You know.
Oh my gosh, you're right. We'll plan I'm trying to visit with Dusty now, trying to figure out a way how I can shoot a bison come up, sometime maybe like in January or February when it's cold, and we'll get Kuby's to do some absolutely magic that they do on every kind of game meat or exotic meat, and we'll kind of share it between the group here if we need to, kind of thing. Yeah. Although I know you want a fair amount, and I want a fair amount as well too, because I know how good it is.
You bet.
I mentioned Taurus handguns earlier. I took Edgar and David and Cale and Carson, along with Dusty, out to the Choctaw Hunting Lodge has got a 1,200-yard range that we set up some time ago, and so I wanted. I know that both David and particularly Edgar like to shoot handguns, so I took a 454 Casull out there that to have Edgar shoot. And I'll tell you what, there's no 100-yard target, there's a 200-yard target. And with that Taurus Raging Hunter and a 454 Casull shooting 240 grain Hornady XTP loads, Edgar put them all, the shots that he did, he shot several times, and all of them went into the bullseye at 200 yards. So I knew he was a good shooter, but I have to brag on him. He impressed me, I'll tell you what. And then I brought another handgun, one of my old 30-06 handguns. He was doing the same thing with it at about 300 yards. So
I had them scoped, I'm sure, or did you have scopes on them?
Both of them had scopes on. Both of them had old scopes that, of course, Stealth Vision doesn't make a long eye release scope. Yeah. So these go back to the days back when I was with Thompson Center, and there was Thompson Center scopes on these that were actually made years ago by Simmons for them when you got right down to it. But we had an absolute blast out there shooting, and then, of course, sitting in a blind and, anticipating there's a fair number of black bears scattered throughout that area. And one of the places that we sat close to, they had trail cameras we hunted along a trail, probably about maybe 300 yards from where there was probably a feeder, because I'm guessing because that's where they had that trail camera set up. And there was a big old bear. It looked like he probably weighed about 350, something like that had been in that area. So we kept looking for that bear the entire time. And unfortunately didn't see him, but he was there. And both Edgar and David and I are going back to the Choctaw for the archery black bear season a little bit later. So got a lot of good things coming up. And I have to mention too, we've got the DSC gala coming up again. I think July the 17th to the 19th at the Gaylord Texan there in Grapevine, and that Saturday night, I think it's the 19th. we're going to sell an auction item that the Choctaw has donated. It's called the Choctaw McNab. And the Choctaw McNab is a challenge to try to shoot either an oryx or a buffalo and a turkey and catch a fish all in the same day, named after this old Scottish McNab that they have done for years in Scotland. But we're just going to adapt it to the Choctaw. And so, man, there's going to be an opportunity for somebody to come up and do their best, try to shoot a turkey, something that's got horns, probably either an oryx or a buffalo, and then catch a bass as well too, because there's some good fish in there.
Oh boy, yep. That's just the Choctaw, folks, is to give you a location from, say, Hugo, Oklahoma, north. You can be there probably less than 45 minutes maybe. From McAllister, Oklahoma, it's not very far, just a short drive. That's the area, but it's 45,000 acres, and it's absolutely awesome. Jeff Rice, who is our great friend, and Jeff does he puts our digital weekly TV show together every week. It's called A Sportsman's Life, and you can watch it on YouTube. You can just search out, A Sportsman's Life, or Carbon TV, where a lot of people watch it there, carbontv.com. But Jeff was with us, and there's a breed of hog, the Choctaw Mulefoot hog, that the Choctaw tribe brought from Mississippi during the Trail of Tears. Well, there's some pure breed. They still have a lot of pure breed Choctaw Mulefoot hogs there through the members of the tribe. They've kept some pure breeds, but there's also some crosses out there, hybrids, if you will. And we were hunting an area, Larry, Jeff and I. Dusty knew an area there about by the old road there, maybe a mile from the camp if you drove.
Right.
We drove and give us real good instructions on how to get there. And we got up real early, Jeff and I, and we were actually just at the break of day. We were there. I tell you what, let's do, Larry. I'm being told it's time to take a break. So our campfire talk here, folks. We're going to take a break, and Larry and I are going to be back with you here in segment 2, just a minute or two, and we're going to follow up here. And Larry, let's tell them a little bit more. We just didn't have enough time to talk about everything we want to. So if you'll stay with me, we'll take a break and we'll come right back. How about that?
You got a deal.
Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Folks, I want to introduce you to VINEYARDMAX. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Weishuhn, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, VINEYARDMAX has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders,
and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, we are back with Mr. Larry Weishuhn. And, in Campfire Talk there, we just did not have enough time, Larry, to talk about all the fun stuff that we got involved with there recently up at the Choctaw Hunting Lodge. Where was I? I was talking about that hunt of mulefoot hogs, right?
Absolutely. You're right. They were brought over by the Choctaws from where they were down in, I think they were in Alabama and Georgia, and in that area years ago. But those hogs were originally brought over by the Spaniards, and those were some of the original hogs that the Spaniards brought over from Spain to there. And at one time, of course, the thing about it was those hogs traveled really well on a ship. They ate just about anything you fed them. They survived really well. They reproduced really well. And I've read accounts of where they brought those hogs, and a lot of those were those mule-footed hogs that have the little wattle on each side, just down below the eye on the lower jaw kind of thing. And so they brought those over, and you're right. I remember Dusty telling me that there were a few in that area ever since the Choctaws have been there, but then they were able to find, or somebody came to them one day and said, "Hey, I've got a whole pen full of those Choctaw hogs. If you guys would like to have them." So they've always been there since they've own that property, but at the same time, they've now augmented that population with a bunch of other Choctaw hogs. So, which is absolutely fantastic because they're truly unique with being that mulefoot hog. They do not have cloven hooves like other hogs do.
That's right, Larry. If you go back, folks, and watch Sportsman's Life back probably February, something like that. But I had the opportunity to actually shoot go up there and hunt a pure breed, one of the pure breed Choctaw hogs. Larry filmed it there. I used a CVA, the muzzleloader, Optima 50 caliber muzzleloader, and Larry had it. We've got it all on film. But I had heard for many years that the pork from those hogs was some of the best, and I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever eaten any better pork. That's a fact. The one I shot wasn't a big one. I don't know, 130 pounds maybe, something like that. But it was some excellent pork. So the plan was, I'd already taken a mulefoot hog, and I've got to have my Mr. Joe Parker, All-American Taxidermy, making a little mount, like a gun rack with those hooves. They're solid like a little mule hoof. And to me, that was a big deal to get one of those. I'd wanted to hunt those forever. And so Jeff had never shot a mulefoot hog. And Jeff's he loves to hunt hogs a lot.
Oh, yes.
And on his place, he hunts them a lot, eats them. He knows what good wild pork can be on the table. So my goal was for him to get to shoot one, and I'm always trying to tie something into an article. I'm doing an article on using thermal scopes during the daylight too. They're just as effective during the day as they are at night. The heat signature is just bold during the day on any warm-blooded critter, So I had the CVA Cascade, the VH. That's a varmint hunter. It's a shorter version of the Cascade, the CVA Cascade, and I got it. I have mine in 223, so I had that set up with that AGM Global Vision adder scope on it. I wanted Jeff to, would accomplish two or three things. Would get some good pork, good pictures, and have a video of this hunt. So that's painting the picture, Larry, of what we were trying to do. Now, granted, I told Jeff, I said, we may be able to get a mulefoot hog, or we may not, because in the real world, they're mixed in with the different feral hogs, and there's some that do have the wattles and have the mulefoot the hooves, but in a hunting situation in high grass and all that, you're probably not going to be able to look at the hooves on those hogs. I told Jeff that. So he said, look, the first fat young one that's going to make good sausage at Kuby's, I said, you got the picture. Let's get a hog, and if it happens to have a solid hooves, well, so much the better. So here's what our plan was. Dusty gave us good directions how to find an area
that he'd been seeing a bunch of hogs coming in early morning to a feeder. Well, we got down there and actually baited. Found a trail coming out of some bottoms there, heavily used trail. We took some of the VINEYARDMAX, and I wanted to stop the hogs there before they got to the feeder, because there was a copse of trees there, probably 70 yards away, that I thought our plan worked perfectly. But to get into those trees, in case the hogs were already there, I just didn't feel comfortable. They had a great, beautiful, elevated blind there, but I was afraid we would spook the hogs, trying to get in that blind, and we would have. So, but we did that. We bait with VINEYARDMAX, which is a dried grape skin based attractant there. We baited that heavy trail coming in, and then led it over to and made a cross on the ground. Larry, this may sound a little ridiculous to some people, but I made a big cross, and the idea was to get the right body position on the hogs. Sometimes if you just put one pile out, you'll just have a ring of hogs around them, So I thought, well, I've done it before too with corn, but I might put probably a 10-foot on either leg of that cross, and sure enough, when we came up, and I used those stealth vision binoculars from a long way, and I ranged the distance to have the rangefinder on those binoculars. And they were out there probably at first, when we first saw them, about 125 yards. So, but that copse of trees that I'd hoped we could make it to, we did. We got there about 70 yards. And those hogs, they hung up on that VINEYARDMAX. A couple of three did go on to the feeder where they normally go, but there was probably 10 that were working that VINEYARDMAX over, Larry. And so Jeff got real steady. He through the AGM Global Vision scope, he recorded. It records video and audio, so he recorded the shot through the scope, through the thermal scope, and I had the video camera running. And the hoggy shot was about the size of that one, that you and I killed, right. About 125 pounds maybe. But it turned out to be a young sow, perfect hog to take to Kuby's to mix with your venison and make some spicy. We're going to do that this week. I'm picking your venison up that you have frozen, and that was pretty good chunk of meat from that hog. I put it in a sack. It's quite a bit of meat. Get some good sausage made down at Kuby's in Dallas. So that's what we did, and we weren't, when we on close inspection. Yeah, it was just a regular old feral hog, like no signs of the Choctaw at all, no wattles. But we were happy as a lark, and got back to the camp. We had it quartered up. Jeff and I quartered up, packed the meat on ice, and then you guys showed up from the morning turkey hunt,
And had a breakfast that Nicole fixed for us and Miss Sue, I think, who's kind of an assistant cook there. But I'll tell you what, the food at the Choctaw, and I have to brag, we're kind of bragging on some of the other stuff. I'll tell you what, we have bragged about the food, but all I can say is if you spend more than a day or so at the Choctaw, you can expect to gain 5 pounds while you're there. That place has become one of my favorite, if not. I tell people there are 2 favorite places on earth as far as I'm concerned away from my home, and that's the Cotton Ranch that I get to spend time with, thanks to you introducing me to them. And the same thing with the Choctaw. That's my second most favorite place. And again, it's because of your introduction of those folks there, to me, to them, that I get to keep coming back up. That's the interesting thing about the Choctaw is that Nicole is even set up. I've got my own room up there that's she calls that's Mr. Whitetail to you. And now I've got one of my deer that I've shot there on the Choctaw in that room, and I love to draw deer heads anyway, and so there's a drawing of the deer head in there as well too. So that's become a very, very special place as far as I'm concerned.
That's cool. That's cool. I kid Nicole. I told her, my hog feet that I got.
Oh, yes.
I haven't got them back yet. I'm joking around with her and Dusty. I said, you know what? That broom closet in the back there, back behind the lodge? I want my Choctaw mulefoot hogs. I want to take up residency back there. I'm just picking at them. But that's what we do down there. We joke around, have a lot of fun, and by golly, we usually put some meat on the meat pole when we're down there too, Larry,
We do, and of course the fishing there is phenomenal as well too. I know that you and Jeff and David and maybe somebody else fished for just a little bit, and I mean y'all were catching bass right there off the bank right below the gazebo. So the fishing there is phenomenal. If somebody's looking for a place to go fishing, and they need to take a lot of fish out of there. So
they do.
You might holler at Choctaw Hunting Lodge and see what kind of arrangements can be made just to come in there and fish and spend some time there at the lodge, because my gosh, what a fabulous place.
It is, Larry. So folks, I'd like you to watch. Jeff Rice has this show up right now on YouTube and Carbon TV. I don't, both. Either one, you can go and search out A Sportsman's Life and look back a week or two, and you'll see all this. You'll see the whole thing. We captured it, or all of us did some filming on our own. But Larry, thank you so much for spending the time. I've had almost as much fun recapping this. Our fun,
I know.
That's what some outdoor writer, I don't know who it was, said that the good thing about hunting and fishing is that it's almost as much fun after you've done it as it was when you did it, thinking back on them, on the trips.
It truly is. It truly is.
Well, thanks a lot, and you and I'll be real soon up at Lake Texoma with our buddy Bill Carey, and Jeff Rice will be with us, and for some topwater. I'm talking about real soon. We're going to be up there hopefully catching some topwater stripers. And even if we don't catch the topwaters, we'll get them with some jigs or slabs. I bet we'll have a good time. So we'll be able to actually spend some time together real soon, Larry.
I'm looking forward to that. That is going to be so much fun.
Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination for camping, just a getaway place, some very good fishing up on the upper end of Lake Livingston. It's River Rat Resort. You can go online to riverratresort.com. Check it all out. It's an awesome website there, but there's RV sites for RVs. There's tent camping right on the river, cabins there. It is a beautiful park. And I fished down in that area for many, many years. I probably first started fishing there 30 years ago. But you can fish the river. Lake Livingston is a well-known fishing lake. If you don't like to fish, which I bet you do, but if you don't, it's a great place just to get away from the hustle bustle of the big city. You can call 936-277-5495. That's 936-277-5495 and make reservations. But first, go online there to riverratresort.com. Check it out. I want to tell you about a one-stop shop for everything related to game feeders and fish feeders, Ultrimatic Feeders. I've been using components and feeders from Ultrimatic Feeders for 20-something years, I guess. They have the remote, which you can remotely activate your feeder with, the timer, which is the most simple timer that I've ever found on a game feeder. And then the eliminator. Check these out. They are worked on centrifugal force, and they seal off the corn supply so coons and squirrels can't get to the corn. Check them out. Ultrimatic Feeders, you could go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokintex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. or seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, you know, for the past many years, I've went up to Saskatchewan, up in Canada, to fish in the summertime. Fishing season there kicks off in June because it's iced up before then. The ice is probably beginning to break up there right now. But let's go up to Saskatchewan, and Michelle Wohlberg is a longtime friend of mine. She has managed camp. She's guided hunting, fishing trips. I always say she should be the Outdoor Woman of the Year if there was such a thing. She's the real deal when it comes to the outdoors, folks. Michelle's standing by up on up there in some very, very good fishing. Now, that's what I thought we might pick her brain, and if you're thinking about going to Canada, to Saskatchewan, I want to give you enough information to get you going. The main thing you need to know is it's not hard to get up there. It's logistically challenging the first time, but once you do it, it's easy. I mean, book a flight and talk to the right people. So that's what we want to talk about. Michelle, thank you for being with us, man.
Thanks for having me again, Luke.
Yep. Well, we fished together. We've recorded, and you're kind of a flag waver for me up there in Canada. And the truth is, getting up there is not that big a deal. And we're going to talk about what you're in charge of, Thompson's Resort there, and the company that you work with, Adventure Destinations. The website, I think, is adventuredestinations.ca, right?
That's correct,
yeah.
Yep.
The plural on destinations, adventuredestinations.ca. Basically, regardless of, I've fished up in northwestern Saskatchewan, Tasman Lake, Squatican Lake with our friend Bryce. That's where you and I have met you up there fishing. Been there many times. Yep. There's all kind of different packages is what I'm getting at. But let's concentrate on what you're involved with right now. A person basically to go fishing. Tell everybody where you're at. I think that will be helpful, you know?
Yeah, so I'm working for Thompson's Resort. That's owned by Adventure Destinations. I'm located in a little hamlet called Missinippi, and I sit right on the lake of Otter Lake. So I'm about 45 minutes northeast of LaRange, Saskatchewan. So getting up here, most people fly into Saskatoon. You grab a rental car from Enterprise, and then you start driving north. Stop for some snacks in Prince Albert, and then you keep going, heading down the road till you get to LaRange. Grab some lunch there and stretch your legs, gas up, and head north just a little bit more. And then you arrive on my doorstep where I'll look after everything else for you.
That's a good description of what's going on there. So just book a commercial flight to Saskatoon. The hub will probably be Minneapolis, more than likely, and you'll probably get on another plane and go to Saskatoon. The Saskatoon Inn, it's a famous place there. If you're there, get a bowl of the bison stew. I don't know why it's so good, but that's what I always do at their restaurant there. So, okay, so Otter Lake, you're going to wind up there at Thompson's Resort, which is right on the banks of Otter Lake. I've been there many times. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. That's kind of a hub for the float planes, and that's something that you're in work with, right?
That's right. We have our own planes here. We have a Beaver and a 185 that we use for our own purposes. But yeah, Osprey Wings, the famed Osprey Wings that flies to all the fishing camps in the north. We're in the same town as each other. So, it's not uncommon for me to go down and have a visit with the folks there running that operation.
Yeah.
So, as you say, small world, how all those things end up lining up.
That's true. Outdoor people have a way to get things working, coordinated. Okay, so we're up there. The goal is to go fishing, and folks, if you've never been up in Saskatchewan, these lakes, it's absolutely awesome. I mean, I fished. First time I went up was with Bryce Liddell there in Squatican. Well, no, that was the second trip up there. But it's the first time I fished on my own. And I'll be honest with you, Michelle, I was a surveyor for many, many years, and I kind of know my way around. But I started looking at a geographical map of the Squatican Lake, and I asked Bryce. I said, "Whoa, wait a minute!" He said, "That's some of the best fishing's up in up here or there, a few miles." I said, "Can you get lost up there at Squatican on your own?" I was really concerned, like get off on one of those bays and wind up in the bush where you don't know where you are. He said, "You can't get lost here on the Squatican, and literally you cannot." But that's an option there on Otter Lake, where you are. If people want to rent a room, and then rent them a chalet or a cabin or whatever. And there's a restaurant right there. I'm sure they could arrange to do their own cooking, if they want to do that. And then just hire a guide. But fishing, and I have never done this, fish on Otter Lake. We always leave Otter and fly 20 minutes or 30 minutes to someplace. But I've always been told that the fishing, right? Why wouldn't the fishing be good? It's on the river system. But you've told me that it's some great fishing right there. You don't have to. You don't necessarily have to fly out somewhere, right?
That's right. It's just a different setup, I'm sure that in a lot of people's backyards, you've got something great there that you travel somewhere else to do because you think it's better over there.
Prettier or better across the hill or whatever. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. You're always going to head over somewhere else, even though you got something great going on in your own backyard. So the beautiful thing about where I am right now is that you don't have the cost of the flight.
Mm-hmm.
So because there's no cost of the flight, your trip price is quite a lot different.
Yeah.
Because you don't spend so much on the plane ride. That being said, you're not flying in somewhere, and that's all exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But what I offer here is we offer room rentals. We have, like you say, the restaurant. We own the store in town, so we have the store that has, your basic necessities and ice cream for the folks who are always, chasing something cold in the summer heat.
Yep.
And then, of course, our fishing. So we have our boats that you can take out by just on their own, or you can hire a guide. And then all the guides are employed by me.
That's right.
So I set that up for you. So, yeah.
And folks, Michelle knows fishing. She's an excellent guide herself. So, without having to pay for the float plane, that is a substantial cost to get out, to some of those remote lakes. But the bottom line is, I've seen Osprey Lake from the air once we get airborne, but it's a big lake and it's got all kind of coves and fishing right there. Let's concentrate on that. That would be a good first time. When you get there, you may decide you want to go to a fly-in lake, and that's possible too. I know you could talk to Michelle and probably arrange that. But what's fishing like on Otter? It's got to have walleyes. It's got to have northern pike, for sure, right?
We sure do. Yeah, we have numerous sets of rapids and on this lake, so we got plenty of spots for spawning, for fish to spawn there. And then we have the northern pike because, when you're looking at a map of that, you've got all of the bays, all those bays, all those weedy flats. You've got all that stuff for fish, for places for fish to live and spawn in. And then, we have perch as well. We've got burbot. And then there is no lake trout that spawn in the Churchill River system.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have, there's just about everything else that one could possibly want.
Yeah.
And if you want something a little bit more, I'll throw you on a plane and send you out to one of my outposts.
Yeah.
Or day fishing lakes, because I got lots of those too to look after.
You do. I'm a northern pike nut, and given the choice, if I could catch a bunch of 20-inch pike, and I've caught them up in the 51-inch. I think I caught one time. I think you were there at Esquatican. I had the biggest pike of the week, which I forget what it was, maybe 50 inches. I don't know, but I've caught some nice. But the pike. A big old spoon, throwing that wobbling spoon close to a weed bed, and wham, those things look like a log coming out there. That, to me, is so much fun. And you know how to clean a pike. I'll say this, too. It's all about, I'm all about eating fish. I fish all the time down here in Texas, catfish and white bass and everything. But going up there, those fish are so tasty. And you know how to clean a pike. I had just as soon eat not a giant pike. We don't kill. I don't kill those, and you don't either. But an eater, say 18, 22, 24-inch pike, those things are excellent eating. But cleaning them I could learn to do it, but I'm never up there long enough. I'll just say, okay, Michelle, you're fast. I like to watch you clean them. But they're good eating, aren't they?
Oh, I love northern pike. Like you say, most people go with they don't like eating them because they're hard to clean. They're bony fish. You hear this all the time, and there's a little trick to it. But once you know how to do it, pike, they just hold up so well in that frying pan. You put a batter on them, and they're just so nice to eat.
I love them, and honestly, I just soon eat those as walleye, and I know that's probably sacrilegious to a lot of people, but well, if you rent a cabin up there at where you are there at Thompson's Resort, and is there if you want to cook your own fish? I mean, is there some of the places with stoves and all that?
All of our cabins have their own kitchen.
Okay.
Yep, so you can bring up your own groceries and have your own, cook your own meals.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And the little store there, that's also part of the ownership, I guess. Is that it? The one that you were talking about across the road there?
That's right. The Churchill River Trading Post is also operated by Adventure Destinations with Thompson's Resort.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we get all of our stuff there as well.
Awesome. Well, the Tourism Saskatchewan, Daryl Demoskoff, he has been so helpful to me through the years as he works with writers and journalists and people to help expose them to that first time to come up. But folks can also, we're going to give some websites here too, Michelle, but Tourism Saskatchewan, you can just Google that. And that website, there's a lot of information on that, isn't it, Michelle? They can learn a lot just on that.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, okay. So there, and then more specifically, let's hook them up with Michelle Wohlberg. And people that might want to go online, give them that website again for Adventure Destinations, if you would, please. And folks, jot this down.
Yeah.
And if you've ever thought about going to Canada fishing, I can tell you, do it. It's not expensive. Well, you'll spend more money than you will hauling your boat to the lake fishing for crappie, but it's a fishing trip that you'll never forget. And I'll say this: if you go one time, you will be planning for more trips. How do they learn more about your spot there, Michelle?
Simple Adventure Destinations with an S.ca. So adventuredestinations.ca. On there, we've got everything listed on our website. You can spend a couple hours looking at the information we have on there. And if you really wanted to book right away and you just want to talk to me, call me. My phone number is 1-306-381-8779. Just call me. Send me a text message if you don't like talking on the phone or you don't get a hold of me because I'm busy racing around fixing something. Yep. And I'll get you hooked up with a fishing trip. And, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, Luke. You got to live your life. And nothing better for me than spending time out in the nature.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with you. Give that number once again, please.
1-306-381-8779.
Michelle, thank you very much for being with us. And like I say, I admire what you do. There's look up Outdoor Lady Guide. Your picture should be there in the dictionary. Thanks again, and we'll try to check in with you here and see how the fishing's going soon. How about that?
I can't wait. Thank you again, Luke.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use, you can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas, and VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Friends, I hope you've enjoyed our show this morning. I thoroughly enjoy visiting with our friends. Larry Weishuhn's been on this show with me for 18 and a half years, every week in Campfire Talk. And Michelle Wohlberg, no kidding, this lady, she was on the Alone series and almost won it years back. But she's spent her lifetime guiding hunting and fishing trips up north in Canada and Saskatchewan, and she's been all over up there. Very, very knowledgeable person, and she shared some information with us. If you've contemplating going up there, fishing season starts up there in June. Right now, I'm sure there's still a lot of ice, but it's dissipating quickly. So just in a couple of weeks, they'll start fishing up there. And a trip up in Saskatchewan is just amazing. I hope you can listen to this after our great radio stations. After you hear it here, it's on a podcast, Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and friends. And if you miss something there, you can go back and listen. But that's a destination that I think you will really enjoy. I want to give you a fish recipe. Michelle got me all fired up talking about cooking those northern pike and walleye. You can also cook catfish and hybrid stripers and even a largemouth bass out of a pond somewhere. Here's a recipe that you want to try. Now, you hear a lot about cooking fish on the half shell, leaving the skin, the scales on the fillet. I don't like to do that. I mean, you can. I've done it. It's good. But you also leave if say a fish like a striper or white bass or a catfish to some degree, you leave the red meat there. What I like to do is take, let's just talk about a blue cat or a flathead or a big channel, something with a good-sized fillet. Fillet the fish, and, say it's a blue cat or whatever, there'll be trim the fat off of it, and trim that bloodline. There will be a little bloodline on a big blue cat or whatever, right down the middle of the fillet. Trim that little V out. It's not much. Just a little strip of meat, but take your time and clean the fillet up nicely. Now, this is like on a grill or a smoker outside. I cook this a lot on my Smokin Tex electric smokers. Take some heavy-duty foil and make a foil boat, lay it down in there. And I like to put, any kind of seasoning that you like. You can put steak seasoning on it, but a little lemon pepper adds a lot to it. It's really simple. But this is the way that for success to do it. You can mess up by not having enough, oil or butter. But I put some pads of butter down in the foil boat, put the fish down, and I season it with sometimes just steak seasoning and lemon pepper. But bacon is the key, is the kicker. I will take that and season both sides of it, and then cut little strips of bacon about 2 inches long, and just put those on top of your filet. You'd be surprised the flavor that I don't know. If you have a little wood smoke, so much the better. In my Smokin Tex electric smoker, I always put a little bit of, pecan wood or maybe even hickory wood. But or a grill. You can do this just on a grill, but it seems to be better if you have a covered grill, like a lid on your cooker or whatever, where that smoke will permeate that filet a little bit better. Of course, you can make a bunch of these. Well, I don't cook just one, but I'll have, and this could also be done in a little throwaway aluminum pan that you can pick up at the dollar store. But some aluminum, something that you can toss away when you get through with it. So it'll cook in probably, 14 minutes, I'm going to say. But that bacon, the whole key is to not cover it, leave it uncovered where that heat can cook that bacon. And then basically that's it. Squeeze a little lemon juice on it. I'll tell you, that's some of the best eating that you've ever had. And you can use striper, hybrid striper, catfish. The key on the catfish, especially if it's channel cat in this dish, is to trim, a channel catfish fillet. If he's pretty good size, he's going to have a little tiny strip of yellow around the perimeter of that fillet. Trim that off. And if it's a bigger blue catfish or a flathead, take the time, trim. You can use an electric knife or a real sharp fillet knife and just trim 1/16 of an inch of that red meat off. It a little bit won't hurt anything, but do trim the fat. Folks, I have thoroughly enjoyed being with everybody today. Remember, you can learn more about what I do on CatfishRadio.org. Go right there, and everything's a lot of interesting things on there. Our TV show, A Sportsman's Life, there's a link there every week that you can go and follow to Carbon TV. Watch our show that Larry Weishuhn and Jeff Rice and I do each week. We do a lot of stuff in the outdoors. My newspaper column, it's running now in 46 Texas newspapers every week, but you can read it right there at CatfishRadio.org. Be safe in the outdoors this week, friends, and get out there and have some fun. That's what the good Lord gave us the outdoors for, and we need to partake in it. So be safe. Talk to you next week. Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.